Okay, fine. We need to talk about Velma. Have you ever wanted a Scooby-Doo show whose target demographic is millennials? Well, no, not really. That actually sounds terrible. Okay, but what if there's like a lot of nudity and actual violence and they're also in high school? Hey, what? Oh, and there's no dog. Why would anyone want this? Oh, right. Velma is a critically acclaimed and universally loved HBO adult animation show, whose executive producer is actress Mindy Kaling, who also voices the titular mystery solver. Which brings us to our first change in the normal Scooby-Doo formula. Velma and Daphne are Asian Americans, and Shaggy, Norval goes by his government name here, is a black guy. And I think that's cool actually. Everyone should feel represented in the media that they consume. I'll get more into the representation during some of the episodes, but so far that's a positive. However, that being said, Velma in this series is a clear self-insert by, let me reiterate, executive producer Mindy Kaling. Self-inserts are tricky to pull off, as there's a clear bias involved when trying to write the characters that is hard for most to overcome. In interviews before the show aired, Kaling would say how connected she always felt to Velma because she's so smart, so obviously she would have to be Indian. Forgetting of course that even positive stereotypes are still harmful, like the first thing that you learn in sociology. Along with that, one of the main critiques of self-inserts is that wish fulfillment can be genuinely frustrating to viewers, and it's no different here. Every character in this has a crush on Velma at one point or another, and yeah, whatever, spoilers I guess. Were you really gonna watch this? But none of them have any chemistry with her, like, at all. She might genuinely be the most unlikable protagonist that I've ever laid my eyes on. And so that brings up my biggest question. Mindy Kaling, is this really how you want to portray yourself? In this series, Velma's a selfish, rude smartass who takes advantage of everyone around her. Taking an IP that's existed since 1969, a full decade before you were born, and making it all about yourself is just tacky. Taking such a beloved character, someone that you yourself look up to, and making her into a monster is an egregious misfire. Mindy has plenty of Emmy nominations and even won an Tony Award, so why are we trying to rewrite our high school days to be the main character? Honestly, you could have just put this on AO3 and this would have gone over way better. Expecting all of us to agree with, how could she be so smart and funny and pretty and skilled and loved and not be literally only me? What are we doing here? Speaking of making the Scooby-Doo franchise all about yourself, there's no Great Dane with a bottomless pit of a stomach anywhere in the series. Which brings me to my biggest issue with this existing, is that it likely wouldn't exist if it wasn't a Scooby-Doo spin-off. I just don't see how this would get greenlit in the oversaturated adult animation market without that. They say it's supposed to be an origin story of sorts for the gang, which I will not stand for the pup named Scooby-Doo erasure, but if they love Scooby-Doo so much, why get rid of the dog exactly? If we're being generous, maybe a licensing issue, but I mean, come on. This is a show produced by a multi-millionaire and bankrolled by a billionaire company. But even then, there's not much that separates it from any other awful animated show from Fox, Comedy Central, Netflix, you name it. And I think that's where much of the internet's vitriol comes from, is that bastardization of a beloved franchise that we all grew up on. It's just any other adult animation slop wearing a Scooby-Doo skin. Also, it's terminally cringe. But is it actually bad? Well... Immediately we get an introductory narration by our new lead, fully immersing us into her secret life as an American teenager. And if you get that reference, your AARP cards are in the mail. Enjoy the discounts. And here we get our first gag that lets you know exactly what you're getting into with the series, while also calling out shows that put all this gratuitous nudity in the pilot episode to grab your attention. So you can't call this out for being bad, it's actually meta. Get it? It's like Scream. Except Scream is actually good. Velma goes to open up her locker and finds Brenda, and ugh, she's such an airhead. Ooh, sorry B, I didn't mean it. Obviously being found with a dead girl in your locker isn't a great look, plus also attacking Daphne, the daughter of 2 police investigators, doesn't really help her case. For some reason they allow a murder suspect to just up and leave, and Velma runs into local pretty boy Fred Jones, who's voiced by Glenn Howerton, aka Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny. And a fun little game to play is take a drink every time that you picture Dennis doing one of these line deliveries with Charlie and Mac off to the side. Don't worry, we've got livers on standby. We've got some typical teen show drama where Velma likes Fred who's dating Daphne, but surely that won't come into play later. Also, Velma's battling some demons of her own in her head, but I'm sure that'll get addressed in due time. We meet Velma's dad and his girlfriend or baby mama or something, because Velma's mom has been missing for 2 years now. Look, I know that they're throwing a lot at us right off rip, but we just gotta keep up. We've got Brenda's eulogy at the malt shop to get to. That's the most small town representation we could really get here. Seems like all roads lead back to Denny's at 3 AM. Velma immediately quits her new job and trauma dumps to Fred, and we see why her mom isn't around anymore, and more importantly, those hallucinations. Norval comes along to ruin a perfectly nice moment between them, and not really provide anything useful. Speaking of not providing anything useful, the show really likes to bring up issues in media regarding representation, but it just kinda speaks at the audience, not actually having decently written characters. But this is all getting far too negative. So instead, let me talk about something that I genuinely love about the show. The art direction slaps so hard, especially for more of the body horror sequences. Studio IAM was in charge of the animation, and they did such a phenomenal job. If I could only say one thing, good or bad, about this show, it's probably the best looking show in the franchise, and it's just barely in the franchise. Velma finally comes to terms with the fact that her mother didn't disappear, she left them, and it's time for her to get her life back. After a heart attack. Don't worry, she'll be fine. She has another hallucination and almost another heart attack, but Norval's very real admissions of his feelings for her make her laugh enough to snap out of it. And if you think that's the worst that her character will treat him, just you wait. Velma finds a camera, and also Fred, who admits that his biggest shame is that he hasn't gone through puberty yet. But just before he can explain anymore, the cops bust in and shoot the armed suspect. Armed with a pen and a blank checkbook, of course. See, not all commentary needs to be explained. Fred wasn't Brenda's killer though, he just paid her off. Norval takes Velma home, and they find Krista's body in the recycling bin, so there's a little bit more of this mystery to unravel. If only we had some sort of gang of mystery-solving teens. If I'm being completely honest, most of the brain rot happens in like the first 4 minutes. The rest of the episode's completely fine, with some hints of good sprinkled in there. It's not bad overall, but let's see if that continues. The opening synth music for episode 2 is so good. It kinda reminds me of It Follows, which is a film that I adore. Also, this advertisement for the ascot got a genuine chuckle out of me.
Jones Gentlemen's Accessories. What are you, poor?
Fred's all over the news after his arrest, which leads Velma to find out that her own dad is defending him in court. The show really wants to drive home the fact that Norval's not a pothead in this iteration, but I could have told you that when you decided to go by Norval.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
They got me. Velma brings out the old best friend necklace manipulation gambit to get the case files back from Daphne, but all she really wants is $500. Meanwhile, Mr. Dinkley has his first meeting with his new client, and sees a way in to get that acquittal. Or not guilty by reason of childishness. Something along those lines. But Fred's really gonna have to play up that boyish charm of his to get out of this one. Velma goes to Norval's house to find the detectives doing their jobs, including an unironic dab in the big year of 2023. Oh no, Norval's a live streamer? Velma barges in to guilt trip him into giving her money, and he does reject her at first, but seeing his viewership drop changes his mind. That's fine. Just go back to clip farming, Norv. Back at school, Daphne recruits Velma to pay off her debts another way, by helping her deal drugs to the school. Whatever you need, she's got the hookup. Zoinks, Jeepers, Jinkies, Mystery Machines, Treasures. Okay, I made the last one up. Day 1 of Fred's trial begins, and man, can this get any worse? Oh. Daphne's parents are about to bust the drug dealers when they decide to run off, and as Daphne grabs Velma's hand, they both feel a real spark, and not just the tasers. Yuri, Yuri, Yuri. They manage to lose the cops and, oh my god, Yuri. Actually, no time for that. We got drugs to sell. Of course, the comedy of errors continues when Velma's buyer is actually her father, who scolds her when they get back. But, did he buy anything though? Amon says that he'll give her the money for the files if she helps prove that Fred is innocent. And she admits in court that she was wrong, and that Fred is basically incompetent. The embarrassment in court leads to an outburst that certainly doesn't look good. In fact, it's enough to earn a guilty verdict from the judge. Daphne swings by Velma's house that night to give her the files, which triggers another one of her hallucinations. Quick, Daphne, snap her out of it. Yay! Yuri, Yuri, Yuri. The rare best friends to enemies to lovers arc. Velma is still trying to deal with the whirlwind of emotions that Daphne's kiss left her with. And also Norval, who was watching and is now super jealous. Bordering on obsessive. I must stress, these two are not together. He's just hurt over unrequited love. Velma and Norval ditch the self-defense assembly and head over to the prison to visit Fred, where Velma has another hallucination about Daphne and Fred kissing her, and Norval wanting to kiss her. Luckily, his jokes get her again, but her flailing also got her banned from the jail. So, back to square one. Daphne and Velma take a moment to talk about their kiss, and both come to the conclusion that they don't like each other, so at least they're on the same page now. You lying? Yeah. Also, the self-defense course is being turned into a tournament because everything has to be gamified. Hey wait, we're in American school. Can we get a more appropriate prize? Hell yeah. These undercards suck. Hopefully the main event's better. Velma does finally admit that she has feelings for Daphne, but Daphne's got a lot more at stake for her. She couldn't be caught dead with Velma. Well, Velma's got a little something in store to get back at her for humiliating her. As the final battle begins, Velma tanks a hit and pulls out Daphne's diary and shares her dark secret of going to a therapist. She thinks that makes her the winner, but everyone rallies around Daphne and her mental health issues. And this is another one of those commentary moments that might mean well, but they're written and said so condescendingly that I can't quite make out if they're actually for the cause or they're making fun of it. It's really bizarre. Daphne kicks her into next week, and honestly, deserved. But a quick trip to the guidance counselor brings Velma to apologize to Daphne. Okay, actually, Norval physically brings her there, skipping his therapy session over at the prison, where Fred's abandonment issues incite a riot and a prison break. But who cares about that? We're here for the girls. They make up and decide to not make out, so everything's looking good now. I skipped over the post-credit scene in the last episode because it was kind of a nothing burger, but this one sees all the convicts out in the woods, and Fred gets tased. Okay, cool. It's been 2 whole weeks since a murder last occurred. Alright.
I just found another dead girl killed in exactly the same way as the other!
Oh, but if this happened with Fred in custody, he's obviously not the murderer. Unless it's a copycat situation. The police deduce that only the hot girls are being targeted, so everyone decides to rank the hottest high school girls in order to protect them. Yeah, sure. Velma's put in charge of making the list instead, and all the hot girls have a sleigh off to try and get the guards. But no one can compare to Daphne in her eyes, which is kinda sweet. Norval is still super annoying and no help, so it's time to bring in the master of misogyny, Fred. Fred basically turns into Sherlock trying to formulate this list, and in return, Velma gives him a copy of the feminine mystique to maybe change his ways. None of this really matters, since the cops make Velma give the hot girls Uggo lessons. Which sounds awful, but it's actually like one of those early 2000s teen movie montages, set to Shania Twain's Man, I Feel Like a Woman, so I have no choice but to stan. But the girls rebel against Velma's little experiment, saying that it's less about protecting them and more about shaming them. They like looking hot, so they're gonna be hot. Honestly, I kinda dig this. It's not up to the girls to change their appearance to keep themselves safe. While all this is going down, Norval teaches Daphne about the history of crystals and geodes, with a lot of cool animation choices that take you back through the years. Back at school, Sophie's going into labor, so Velma recruits the hot girls to help get the vultures away from her so the ambulance can get through. Everyone uses their natural gifts to do so, with Fred catching a glimpse of Velma through a tinted window and the feminist lens, and he immediately falls in love. That night, he turns on the charm for Velma, but a quick analysis reveals that she's actually disgusted by him. Unlucky Frederick. Our post-credit scene sees Gigi and Norval start a new love connection for some reason. Literally nothing good should be happening to this man. I can't tell if I have Stockholm Syndrome or not, but this actually isn't a bad time. It's kinda fun. Do I need help? Velma's pretty much that friend who only wants you around when they need something. In this case, it's helping defeat her hallucinations, but in general, we all know somebody like this. Good thing that Norval's not responding to her text though. I know after the last episode, it may seem like Norval's my least favorite character right now, and he's close, but Velma herself is genuinely not a good person. Daphne goes back over to the caves to try and find out some more about her birth parents, and instead is kidnapped by some lurker. See, this is basically classic Scooby-Doo, right? Right? Fred's still trying to get in good with Velma, so he did some snooping and found that the previous owner of his house was a mad neurologist who died in the Crystal Caves. Probably to these two, but that's just a guess. They say that they're Daphne's real parents, and that her adopted parents actually stole her, but they won't reveal themselves until they trust Daphne. She does some research of the history of the miners of the caves, and learns that she's actually a product of their weird cult. Fred and Velma head over to the Historical Society to find Edna Purdue's notebooks, but the last person to check them out never checked them back in. And when Velma learns that she's gonna have to cover all of her mom's late fees, she just dies. Smart. To celebrate, she has all the band kids over for a sleepover, which includes her new archenemy Gigi, and the pair have a flute off to win the Reds to Norval. Out of context, that sounds bad. If you want to know how the duel goes, this kid unplugs his cochlear implant. Velma tricks Gigi into spilling the beans that Edna Purdue was actually Norval's grandmother, then manipulates him into driving a stolen cop car over to the diner. They do need to obtain that car first though. Daphne's going through some stuff of her own, calling out her parents for their weird Superman origin story of her adoption, seeing visions in the crystal, you know, normal teen stuff. She's relieved when Velma calls, but of course, she only wants the car. She doesn't really care about anyone but herself. That is, until Norval wants to support a small business, and Velma's whole mindset changes. And she sacrifices herself to the 5-0. Oh my god! Daphne hops in the sewers and goes back to the caves, where her real parents, Carol and Darren, finally reveal themselves. Velma and Norval talk to Mrs. Rogers to learn some more about Edna Purdue, who managed to keep brains alive and sentient outside of their bodies, and teamed up with a military general to create Operation Scooby. And what did Scooby do, you ask? Well, nothing, actually. Purdue went mad with her work, packed it all up, and checked into the local asylum. Too bad Velma can't hear anything about her mom without her little problem coming back. She comes to the conclusion that it's not mommy issues, but something even more sinister, daddy issues. So she asks her dad to go out to lunch to talk, which is perfect because this is like day 2 of paternity leave and he's already regretting it. They go to their old diner, which has certainly changed over the years, so this is basically like the Hooters version of Denny's, which sounds kind of fun actually. And Amon thinks so too. So he calls Sophie and tells her that the rest of his paternity leave will be spent with Velma, which is technically correct, so we'll allow it I guess. Especially if it begins a montage sequence with all of our gang having some family bonding time. But Fred kinda ruins the vibe when he brings by one of the strippers that his dad bought to be his girlfriend, which Amon helped the contract dispute for. I don't know, it's weird. But Amon just really wanted to go back to work, so Velma's ready to accept her fate and learn about her mother. Her mother, Dia, was the original meddling kid, which got her taken by the ghost of Edna Purdue. So Velma heads over to Fred's place to look for that lab entrance. A familiar looking note leads to Velma's final boss hallucination, which only subsides when Amon finally believes that Dia was actually kidnapped. So Velma's visions are finally vanquished. Meanwhile, Daphne goes back for some more family bonding time, but her dad has some other ideas. Luckily, Daphne's moms might be bad cops, but they still are good parents. So they show up and arrest the Crystal Miners. They didn't steal Daphne, they did rescue her, as her other parents left her behind in their escape. But in the bat-induced chaos, Daphne's mom runs off, and we see in our post-credit scene the fate she lands. With Velma finally released from her debilitating hallucinations, she can finally get back to solving her mystery, while also ignoring Daphne because why not? However, she finds Sophie dead in their house, and it was Amon who did it. Not really. This was some promposal for Fogfest, which is now back on once the cops left the curfew. The only caveat is that every girl needs a date. Sorry V, might be another night in for you. Unless... Fred's parents won't be allowing this though, so he brings a couple bands to school the next day for Daphne to go with him, and of course she agrees. It's either that or go with someone who acts like her friend and has also been ignoring her, so at least she gets some money. So with no date, Velma has free range to try and solve the mystery, using one of her mom's old manuscripts as her first launch point. She finds and calls a number written in invisible ink, but on the other end is just someone breathing heavily with a foghorn blaring in the back. It ain't much, but it is something to go off of. Plus all the people that she leeches off of are there too, so 2 birds with 1 stone. So Velma disguises herself, and pretty well I have to admit, and Daphne seems to think so too. Actually, everyone seems to think so. But for once, Velma doesn't want the attention. A very drunk Daphne pulls Velma onto the dance floor, which gives her an idea. As a man, everyone will listen to her. So Manny, convinces everyone that there's no ghost, and everyone cheers. Daphne finally gets a minute alone with her, and confesses that it's been a super terrible week for her. They have a touching moment and almost share another kiss, when Fred sneaks up and rips Velma's mustache off, and exposes her to everyone in the crowd. That was mostly so he could be crowned the Fog King, but that title's already gone to Norval. Gigi, however, probably won't be claiming her Fog Queen crown anytime soon, as she gets attacked in the fog. Under the pier, Velma comes to apologize, kind of, more so still finding some other reason to blame her actions on, and somehow it still seems to work. Good thing the murderer swings by to attack them, chasing them through the amusement park to some old school chase music, while Fred and Norval have us covered with the crazy doors. Just as the fog rolls in, the attacker swaps Fred's crown with their cell phone and disappears. Oh, Gigi's fine by the way. Daphne and Velma make up, and Fred gets attacked again. This episode starts with Velma going over her history of being possessive over Daphne, and wouldn't you know, the same behavior continues. This is episode 8 now, and her character progressively gets worse and worse. 2 days go by and they're stuck 127 hour style and blaming each other. Cool. We get a bunch of flashbacks that happen back and forth, but at least the show acknowledges this. Does it make it good writing? No. Daphne and Velma work together to try and crack the phone, and find a clue that'll probably lead them out to the woods, where they eventually get stuck. But when Velma comes to pick her up, Daphne's a little busy with Olive, so she fakes one of her hallucinations to get her to come. Cool, totally normal main character. Oh hey Gigi, hey Norval, what are y'all doing out here? Norval doesn't take hints very well, gotcha. Everyone gets into a big fight and eventually gets caught between a rock and a hard place. And now, here we are. Not for too long, as the ground underneath them gives way and they fall to their death. If only we could be so lucky. Gigi and Norval head out, leaving Daphne and Velma by themselves. Fred wakes up after his capture and finds the 3 brains of the girls that had fallen victim to the serial killer, which leads to some hijinks but nothing really of note until Daphne and Velma hear his voice and come and save him. He runs out and screams for help, which causes the cave to start collapsing. As everything comes down around them, Velma nearly falls further into the earth, only being saved by her mother, who finally emerges and is in fact alive. They hop in this mysterious machine and drive on out with a little bit of luck. I'm noticing as we go along here, each episode section is progressively getting shorter. I don't know if I'm becoming numb or there's just genuinely nothing happening. Dia gets rushed to the hospital and gets diagnosed with amnesia, and has to stay happy for the next 72 hours for some reason. So let's go ahead and get Amon's new girl out of here, and transform the nice suburban house back into the depression cave. Now that Velma found Dia, she can finally open the gift, revealing a really cute pair of Mary Janes, which of course she's disappointed with. Dia's starting to get some more of her memories back, but she's starting to get a bit more upset, and the only thing that can help calm her down is seeing Velma's perfect valedictorian report cards, which you have, right, Velma? So, Velma ruins Norville's state fencing championship because she needs something, which ends up being for nothing when Sophie returns home to get her child's blanket. Instead of actually admitting that her dad had a child after Dia left, Velma decides that the better course of action is to pretend that the baby's hers, and the father is Norville. So if that pretend relationship can work, Fred and Daphne can pretend to get back together so they become popular kids again, which does seem to work. Velma continues her spree of using people and making them feel bad for her, but when she's asked to change the baby's diaper for once, she goes to pass it off to Grandpa Lamont, when she sees a welding mask, and yeah, that seems like probable enough cause to call the entire National Guard. Lamont's not the killer, maybe, but he did weld a sweet looking sword for Norville. Norville finally puts his foot down and stops being friends with Velma, leaving her to do this all on her own. Not even Amanda the baby wants to chill with her here, as she turns into the Campbell soup can to escape her. Honestly, she's real for that. She rolls straight over to the welcome home party for the Brain Gang, where everyone else is. Amon finally admits what he did, and Dia finally remembers who the killer is. Well, we'll find out in the post-credit scene because we don't know how to write good stories. It's Dia. Okay, bye! Dia gets arrested for all of the murders, and reveals that she did all of this to put a popular girl's brain into Velma's head. Which sounds harsh, but somehow that would be an improvement on her morally. The only way she'll see her mom again is if she got arrested, so she sets out to Fred's house because she can't do anything by herself. Fred bought Dia's mysterious machine from the police auction and gave it a nice new paint job. So they head back to the station and Velma gets thrown into the cell with her mother, finding out that she's been hypnotized to admit her guilt. As Dia is taken away, Daphne shows up to help Velma through her resurgence of hallucinations. This one sees her former sleuthing self being hypnotized by the actual killer, and the watch belonged to that general that we saw team up with Purdue. Norville's transferring schools because everyone around him kinda sucks. I mean, Velma never even listened to his VMs. That's short for voicemails, by the way, just using some slang. But in an actually nice scene, she spends the rest of the day listening to every single voicemail that he's ever left her. This helps her realize that everything came from Jones Gentleman's accessories, so she heads back over there to break into the lab. Realizing that she may be about to die, she calls Norville one last time and leaves a voicemail saying that he'll always be her best friend. She follows the notes to find the secret lab, where the welder has Daphne and Fred strapped down. Velma grabs Daphne's perfume that stunned the welder, and knocks the knife out of their hand, knocking them out. They tie the fiend up in the chair and finally unmask the killer as Victoria Jones, Fred's own mother, who was the daughter of Harry Meeting. It was her who actually wanted to switch their child's brain with someone else. Sorry, Fred. Mr. Jones is still hypnotized, so he knocks Velma out and unties Vicky to complete her final task, switching Velma's brain into Fred's body. Luckily, Velma weaponizes Fred's short temper to her advantage, as he breaks free from the constraints and knocks his father out, grabbing the gun as Victoria escapes. He goes to chase down his mother, but she quickly gets the gun from him. And, right before they die, Daphne confesses her love for Velma, and Velma accidentally calls her Norville. Literally nothing good should happen to Velma. Norville listened to her voicemail and is now here to save the day, deflecting the bullet and inadvertently killing Victoria. Velma gets celebrated, she locks everyone except for her mom out of the house, and the rest of the gang's lives fall apart. I hate her. Why do good things happen to her? We do set up some storylines for season 2, including a new killer, whose first victim is the sheriff. Whether she's ready to accept it or not, Velma's one of the popular girls now, so she gets invited to all the popular parties. Though not as an item with Daphne, who's still upset over the whole being called the wrong name after confessing her love as they're about to die thing. Before Velma digs her manipulative claws into Daphne anymore, they find the body of the sheriff out in the woods. A new person appears to chime in. This is Amber, the child of rock icon Thorn from the Hex Girls. Hey queen. Velma gets out-logicked by Amber and runs off to start this next mystery, with help from her old buddy Norville. Norville's taken up stress eating to get rid of his own hallucinations, a result of his guilt for accidentally killing Fred's mother. Never mind that he saved 3 of his friends from death. Fred's actually fine, or as fine as he can be. He's converted to Catholicism to help with his spooky stuff business, so everything's water under the bridge, except with Velma. Fred found the shovel that she was going to use to dig up Victoria's grave with, so he's rightfully upset. She gets Norville to be her chauffeur to tell Fred, but there might be a new law coming into place saying that you can't drive if you're having hallucinations. Seems a little dangerous, actually. They follow him to Cogburn's funeral, only to find that there's no body in the casket. Ember and Daphne are going to be roommates now, and Ember kind of fills us in on what might be going down. So something tells me that Daphne's moms know a little bit more than anyone thinks.
Maybe solving mysteries with dogs is a mistake.
Get it? Cause like... The gang head back over to Spooner's to talk about the case, and manage to give their parents the slip to do some sleuthing, until Amber rats them all out. Daphne's moms did know that the sheriff died 3 weeks ago, and have all of the evidence here, except for a couple of Edna-produced journals. This Mr. S guy seems a little more suspicious as time goes on, so they just head back to the Blake Sheriff function. There we see Norval apologize to Fred, but even that can't stop the hallucinations. And if you thought Velma's from last season were cool looking, these go above and beyond that. Velma finds her mom safe and sound writing more of her stories, so her and Daphne make up and then break up again. Typical high school relationship. Our first post-credit scene of the season sees Mr. S get attacked by what seems to be the Cyberchase virus. Now a part of the popular girls in school, do you think that Velma becomes the change that she wants to see? Of course not. They get to class the next day to find that Mr. S has gone missing, and the Blakes make sure to tell everyone that this is official police business, so no meddling. Velma needs to see some picture that Fred has, but he just won't show her, so she has to be paired with him for the annual Creaky Friday, which is the celebration of the Old Town's massacre due to squeaky doors, and this is pretty much worth skipping over. But I had to at least bring it up to talk about this animation work for the flashback, which is, again, absolutely stunning. So Daphne and Velma break into the school to rig the draw, leading to Velma getting Fred, and Daphne gets Amber. That second one isn't rigged, she just got lucky. Amber is gonna manifest winning Creaky Friday with Daphne, and oh my god, they got hit by a car. Oh, you sly dog, you. The creepy looking mortician brings them down to the morgue to oil up all the hinges down there. So while Amber and Daphne are gonna win this competition, Fred and Velma head over to Norval's house to ask about what they found at the costume shop, and hell yeah, this scene rips so hard. But Norval didn't kill the sheriff, or Mr. S for that matter, who Amber and Daphne just found down in the morgue. Dia meets with William Jones to interview for her new book. I'm sure this'll go well. Fred and Velma head down to the police to show them the evidence, with a lurker recording this all. This leads to Merle, the twin of the deceased sheriff, to come back into the mix and run for sheriff instead, announcing that the Blakes have outsourced their investigation to a bunch of kids. And you know what? Fair. The mortician couple end up falling victim to our season 2 perpetrator, and I'm just heartbroken. I was super invested in, whatever their names were. Fred and Velma are now both watching their parents get together, and are both grossed out by it. I think it's a joint slay from them both, but I also have no dog in this fight. While they get dressed, it's time for the big science fair for the kids. Velma isn't exactly making much progress, but she won't accept Daphne's offer to work with her and Amber on their manifestation project. Maybe she could help Lilo and Norval on his hallucination research. This looks pretty cool. For some reason, Norval actually agrees, but only if Velma will get him some pee for his drug test. Not to be clean, but to actually have THC in it. Velma arrives at Jones Manor, and we get a musical number to invite her in, which deeply upsets Fred. Dia realizes this and goes to talk to him, and even offers to help him with his project. Which is, where does Toast come from? I mean, he's making more progress than anyone so far. Oh, scratch that. Amber and Daphne manifested a charcuterie board. They're in the lead. Meanwhile, Velma's living the rich life with her mom's new boyfriend, and being even more insufferable. And she didn't come through for Norval. Are we really surprised? But Norval's hallucination gives them a joint, cause it's hella chill like that. It's becoming increasingly clear that Fred has mommy issues, and Dia seems like a good outlet for that pain. As Mr. Rogers goes through the science fair projects, Daphne admits to Amber that she really did like working on this project with them. But the real winner is Velma and her partner, Money. Oh, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Hey Neil. But now begins the passing of the blue ribbon from winner to winner. It's almost like no one wants this thing. Fred and William finally make amends and actually hug it out, which is a developing story that I didn't expect to actually like. Daphne and Amber might not have won first place, but their project did work. Aw, this is good. Norval fried his brain pretty well here, so much so that he kinda wrecked the empathy portion of his brain, and is just kinda being a dick now. I'm sure all these stories will have a great payoff, especially when combined with one more victim down in the sewers. Velma isn't convinced at all by Daphne's new look, but I think she looks pretty cool. All the kids get dropped off at school to serve their detention Mr. Rogers gave them at the science fair, and we get a little bit of family dynamics from each of them before they head into the library. A cast of teens that seemingly have nothing in common, all in detention. Yeah, this is just a breakfast club. Velma plots to prove that Wicca isn't for Daphne and that Amber's a fraud, because we need something to do this episode, other than Norval having cool hallucinations again. Everyone does their own little fetch quest. Lamont breaks his neck for some reason, and they start having a seance. Actually, Velma's vibes are off, which upsets Daphne. She even calls her out for not believing in a higher power when she literally saw Beyonce in concert, and she's so real for that. This is no longer a seance. This is a seance. What started as something to contact Fred's mom now is also about Velma. so suddenly she cares. Everyone joins hands and recites Beyonce's Haunted, and a giant whirlwind arises. Velma domes Amber with a book and immediately goes to disprove them, while also being super hurtful to Daphne and her newfound passion. This basically just comes down to Velma being controlling like last season. Everyone goes their separate ways, with Norval finding a potential clue in Mr. S's room, just maybe alluding to his grandmother being alive still. Daphne isn't talking to Velma anymore after their fight, and while Daphne's thriving, Velma's, here. She finds those two morticians directly in the pentagram that they made for the seance, and she immediately points the finger at Amber. But the cops correctly point out that she has a bit of an agenda against them. Instead of talking to Velma, who only wants to make her say that Wicca's a sham, Daphne instead hops into an Uber with Norval to the sanitarium, where his grandmother might be. Once they arrive, Perdue immediately sedates them. Sophie intercepts Velma from harassing them anymore, and brings her back home to show that Amber was doing some real witchy stuff in the backyard next door, which leads to Velma posting on social media about her headcanon, and the likes immediately roll in, showing that it doesn't matter how morally bankrupt you are, as long as you get a lot of likes. The Blakes bring Amber and Thorne in because the town is literally about to burn them at the stake, but Amber has an alibi. They were with the cops all night. That burning was actually from Merle's campaign signs, which makes everyone even more upset. When Daphne and Norval wake up, Dr. Perdue takes them on a tour of her lab with hundreds of brains. She went AWOL in the military operation, but kept on researching and eventually perfected her plan. With Amber tied up, everyone else comes back into play to try and save them, whether it be finding out the truth, or Fred's dad needs a love spell on Dia because she's not ready to marry him. Merle gets back on a soapbox to exonerate Amber, blaming social media's rampant lies for all of this. Hey, who started those lies again? Right. Dia tries her best, but soon finds herself on the burn pile as well. Velma weaponizes the male desire to hang dong against the crowd, which quickly disperses. But Velma's new thirst for internet clout burns her, and the others. Luckily, Amon comes to save the day, so Velma can apologize to Amber. It's not okay, but they know that Velma will get what's coming to her, so this gives me something to look forward to. The three girls' brains back in town are slowly dying and need to change the solution, but Edna can't be seen alive, so she switches her brain into Daphne's body, immediately taking to Daphne's social media pages to make a fool of her. Speaking of, this priest tries to get more in touch with the kids than usual, trying to vlog a quick gospel message when he's attacked in the post-credit scene. It's career day at school, but when Velma meets Dr. Perdue in her girlfriend's body, suddenly there's more significant things going on, especially when Lola's looking a bit worse for wear. They hit Mr. S's lab to try and make more brain solution, but something with it goes a bit haywire. Something called Velma was in charge for like a second. But Perdue remembers there might be some more supplies on the military base, so Velma has a fetch quest to do this episode. Cause we all love fetch quests, right? She tells Amon that she wants to join the military, so he pulls a few strings and gets Gigi's father to give them a tour. He's really trying his best to get her to join, but he hasn't even brought out the Camaro yet. Velma steals his keycard to sneak into the weapons facility Delta, with Fred right behind her. They find the janitor's closet with a vent to see Project Scooby up and running, but immediately get caught by the guards. It's really all for naught, especially when Perdue finally sees how selfish she is when her own daughter and grandson hate her. And she still has a stash of glutamine. She just sent Velma to see if Project Scooby's still going. Surprisingly, they didn't get thrown in prison, but something even worse, made to be army recruiters. Somehow, this is still career day. The brains start their performance, which sounds like a Pierce the Veil song, so this rocks. This gives Velma enough time to make a new solution, and they drive Perdue back to the hospital, but find out that Daphne's brain went missing. She's okay, she just got into a run-in with the cockroaches. Fred's punishment was taking the stand in court to say that Gigi's father was innocent, but gets a call from the woman he shared the confession booth with when Fred went to go look for Father O'Rourke. Oh good, here he is now. The woman Fred's fallen in love with is the serial killer, which also affects the Blake Sheriff campaign, leading to Merle winning instead. Merle's first order as town sheriff is to relocate all the women in town and put them down in the mines until the serial killer is caught. And if you're wondering where Amber's going, Merle's actually got that one covered. He's paying for Amber and Thorne to leave town, so that's nice. I think they deserve it, especially after the whole witch hunt thing. Velma's task for the episode is keeping Dia and Sophie separate from each other, and using some of this time to learn more about the mystery at hand. Daphne is going to be absent here, as she's still not back in her body, but she has now become the Roach Overlord. Short-circuiting out doesn't help her case though, as she's now stuck in her own mind until someone finds her. But being trapped in her own mind gives her plenty of time to really find herself. With the girls away, the boys can settle their disputes with a chili cook-off. Hell yeah, just guys being dudes. Oh, Norval drugged everyone. The serial killer is down in the mines, as heard by the voice, which causes everyone to split. Amanda falls off the cliff, but gets saved by Daphne's moms in a really sweet move. But it's revealed that her baby toy has an old woman setting, so we don't really know the killer's voice. As the women squabble, Velma gets them all to start working together and use their intuition and observation skills to find out who it is. They recall various things about Project Scooby and all the weird things surrounding it, which all culminates in Amon being implicated in the murders. Daphne figures out what she has to do and returns to her own body, while Norval reveals to Fred his living grandmother, which helps the hallucinations of Fred's mom subside, for like a second. Just as Amon is about to tell the cops everything he knows, Gigi's father breaks in and shuts it all down under military order. So, with Amon on house arrest, he spills the beans that he caught Daphne and Amber kissing one night. So this makes Velma confused on whether or not to bring it up, and the other girls kinda don't help. Everyone loads up onto the bus, with Velma and Gigi sitting together to try and dispel any rumors of beef between their dads. Not that Amber is too worried about telling them what happened. They've got a special treat for Fred and his paranormal investigating. But after finding out that his mom wasn't possessed, he's kind of over the whole ghost hunting thing. Amon somehow broke out of house arrest and snuck onto the bus, so Velma covers for him at the cost of all the rumors flying. Now at the Capitol, Daphne and Velma finally talk, and everything comes out in the open. I was genuinely expecting it to be some sort of wrong perspective thing, but even Daphne admits to it. Amon and Velma go to plug in a flash drive to the government computer to see what's all on it, and they find that someone in the military was creating an uncomfortable work environment and was creating a special electro set of white shoes, the same kind that attacked Velma in the graveyard. With everyone now locked in by police due to protests of not going to the roller coasters, don't worry, it's a Fred subplot that doesn't really do anything, everyone starts to lose it. Olive begs Amber to make the ghosts go away, and everyone will forgive them for kissing Daphne. Wait, kissing? They weren't cheating, they were placing a curse on them. So, which one's worse? No time to talk about it. The military tailed him on here and then busted in. They'll have to be quicker than that though, as he takes the main character kids onto the bus and speeds off. Once he pulls over, Gigi's father finally shares what he knows about the mystery operative, only that they go by the name Uncle Scooby. Everyone boards the bus to go back home. Amber sees the ghost of Fred's mom, and Daphne and Velma talk things over, as Daphne admits that she only put a curse on her because she loved her so much and wanted to stop, but still couldn't. They make up, and Velma gets a brain blast that they've been looking in the wrong places the whole time. It's not a woman or a man, but something more sinister. Some sort of chasing beast pops the tires of the bus and flips the whole thing, dragging Velma away from the wreckage. Our post-credit scene reveals that Amber's working for Dr. Perdue, who knows of Victoria's presence too. Velma's opening monologue explains how villains used to be easy to tell from the rest, but now it's not so easy, especially when she comes face to face with my boy Scrappy-Doo. Hey King, you hit a growth spurt. Scrappy talks to Velma about his mad villainy, but says someone's been framing him for the murders, Gigi's father. To prove it, he lets her go, and makes sure to tell her to remember the time that no one believed her about her mother. So, she immediately runs out screaming for help. Well, she makes it about 50 feet before succumbing to being out of shape, so she gets to hear even more of Scrappy's story. He explains that he was built in a lab to be the perfect creation, and I believe him. But apparently Don got so jealous that everyone loved Scrappy, that he was the one making everyone uncomfortable with his petitions. Velma eventually walks out to safety, as Daphne sends Dr. Perdue back to Fred's with the rest of them. She gets checked out and cleared, and finally gives Dee and William her blessing for their marriage. This news makes its way to Fred, and I guess to Victoria by proxy, who's absolutely incensed by it. Velma introduces Daphne to her new friend, who drives the pair back to Velma's house to try and clear his name. They'll have to get Don away from the other guards, so Amon's gonna have to propose to Sophie, which can only happen if Velma signs this book. There's a lot of, okay, for this to happen, we need this to happen, which can only work if this happens. Which is, in fact, not good writing. Okay, yes to everything, it's a go. Velma put together the bachelor party pretty quickly, taking Amon and Don to the strip club where someone pops out the giant cake. They didn't expect it to be Scrappy though, who does finally confess that he is the killer, and the dick biter. The dancers surround the poor pup with his arch nemesis, the vacuum. He admits to all of his crimes and is quickly arrested. Back with the rest of the gang, Amber wants Victoria to possess them, but when she does, their body rejects the specter. If ghosts really are lost consciences, then a normal brain can't handle two, so she takes over Fred instead. But, and for the first time in his life, he fights back and takes back his own body. Satisfied with her little boy becoming a real man and standing up for himself, Victoria finally moves on. You know, she got sent where we kinda figured. Velma's still trying to figure out the identity of Uncle Scooby, and I mean, they're right here, just ask them? Oh, okay, they're gone. The two couples decide to just combine weddings, but we're gonna keep that one on the back burner for the most part, because there's way cooler stuff happening elsewhere. Like Daphne and Velma swapping brains, and realize that each other's lives are way harder than they thought it was. Velma overhears from the brains that Dr. Perdue has their bodies down in the lab, and goes to confront her for being Uncle Scooby, which isn't the case, but she did make a deal with him. Maybe we can hash this one out. Okay, maybe not. Velma gets put into the debraining machine, having it put into one of the tanks and into this closet with her body. She immediately falls off the shelf and starts leaking everywhere. Aw man, that's gonna stain. As everyone waits in anticipation for the wedding to start, two dogs at the station unplug the vacuums, giving Scrappy time to attack. Aw man, that's gonna stain. Daphne hears Velma's screams in her head, and rushes her back to the brain swap machine. and now back in their normal bodies, they can find Uncle Scooby. Velma knows that they actually won't hurt either of them, but a little help from Amber can't hurt either. She notes that Uncle Scooby had the opportunity to hurt her multiple times, but never did. And finally, Uncle Scooby is unmasked as Sophie, and it's actually a pretty good reveal. We've been drip-fed more and more information about her as the season progressed, probably the most important thing being when she slipped up and said that she was in the military. She didn't kill anyone, that was all Scrappy, but to keep her family safe, she helped cover up his tracks. And chaos breaks out at the reception, with the body count piling up higher and higher. Dawn comes in for a rescue mission, and the unending force of the US military is coming in with an airstrike soon. So Velma says goodbye to Daphne and stays behind to deal with Scrappy, and she pretty much immediately gets attacked. And just as Scrappy leaps up to try and grab Daphne, he catches that missile straight to the chest. After the helicopter crash, Scrappy emerges from the flames to chase everyone away, but drops dead right before Daphne's feet. Velma's ghost crawls out from Scrappy's body, and we get a shot of Velma's body in the distance. She straight up died. Maybe Amber was right, she was gonna get what was coming to her. Speaking of Amber, they do say that there might be something they can do to bring her back, but it's gonna have to be on Halloween night, as long as nothing drags her to hell. Ooh, spooky! We immediately pick up with everyone using a spell to try and get Velma's ghost back into her body, but the spell isn't strong enough for something like this. They'll have to go to the Old Historical Society and find the Dark Magic book, which might be somewhere past the dead old lady on the ground. The cops believe this to be the work of the Black Knight, which, legend has it, tried to sneak into the cool kids party, but was chased away and pushed off the cliff, and has been haunting the town ever since. Oh, here they are now actually. Everyone still not ghostified is getting ready for a sexy Halloween, when special guest Sweetie pulls up to cancel her performance, because the Black Knight only goes after sexy people. None of her backup dancers would even show up, but luckily all the other girls know her choreography already, so this concert might still be a go. That is, if they can get Velma back into her body and get rid of the Black Knight, which goes not well. They almost get it, but Fred's stupid audiobook reader just kinda messed up the instructions. Each of them will have to face their greatest fears on their own before they can cross back over. Daphne's is the fear of missing out, Fred's is the fear of getting a job, and Norval's is the fear of hurting someone. Velma's is probably the fear of the Black Knight, because hey King, how's it going? Hey, where are you taking her? The Black Knight lured them to the cliff to reveal that he's not the killer, someone's framing him. Velma takes on the case because she believes it'll lead her to her actual fear, but she better hurry though, Halloween's over in like 3 hours. And she does figure it out. It's the fear of being forgotten, just like he was. Velma's just about to be beamed up, and when Daphne goes to grab her, her spirit goes with her. And just as they're about to leave this realm, the Black Knight swoops in and saves them, and found his killers too. Oh, that's not good. He tries to exact his revenge, but yeah, he's just kinda wimpy. When everyone else realizes, they finally stop cowering and explain that Jeff's death was an accident. Velma believes that someone did actually murder him, but it wasn't the parents. As Sweetie begins her concert for Halloween. Oh, and also to remember someone named Vermin Dorkley, the evil Black Knight breaks the cheap stage. Fred wakes up after he and Norval were attacked, and he jumps to save Sweetie. The knight runs off, and everyone trips over the same route and falls off the cliff. Huh, maybe it was just an accident. Jeff catches everyone and lifts them to safety, and I think he looks kinda badass now. The Black Knight is unveiled as Evelyn, who's been up to her dark magic for decades now, and was responsible for the deaths of all the sexy people. Just as Norval completes his test, Evelyn throws Jeff into the magic triangle, which sends him back into his body, which has been waterlogged for like 30 years, but that's fine. I think the real issue here is that Evelyn has uncapped power of the Dark World, which, if every president ever is the blueprint, giving these old people this much power is actually bad. She raises her army of the dead to attack people at the party, but after an inspirational message from Sweetie, everyone does their own sexy thing, which neutralizes Evelyn's power. Velma realizes what she has to do though, as she tackles the soul out of the old lady, and the pair get sent straight to hell. Sometime later, everyone gathers at the cemetery to lay her to rest, remembering the fond moments with her, which, if you remember, was the last step to getting her body back. And as Daphne opens the casket, Velma emerges. Hey Fred buddy, maybe we can put that audiobook down now. Looks like it's starting to take a toll on you. So, what's the final verdict on Velma? It's not bad, actually. It's perfectly fine, bordering on good. It's absolutely terrible as a Scooby-Doo show, because, I mean, there's no Scooby. It's very on the nose with the whole Project Scooby thing, but it's genuinely a fine animated television show. As I've grown older, I've come to realize that I don't actually watch Scooby-Doo for Scooby himself, but for the whole gang. This one just happens to have the most god-awful, obnoxious, repugnant, loathsome characters in anything ever. Okay, maybe slight hyperbole, but work with me. Velma throughout the series showed no character growth. If anything, she regressed even further into her bad characterizations. And her big character moment to save the day also results in her getting to come back to life. In the beginning of season 1, I hated all of our characters. Norval was pathetic, Fred was a man-child, Daphne was the closest thing to a normal person, but even she had her moments of pure selfishness, pettiness, so on and so forth. But as we go along, each of them find their moments to round out their characters and make them not as grating, not as repulsive to the viewer, except for Velma. Everything she does is to serve herself, from our opening moments to our closing scene. And it sucks. To take this beloved character that so many people look up to, and apparently Mindy Kaling herself does, and turn her into this. That's my issue with Velma. Velma. The art and animation is fantastic. The models all look pretty good, but this show shines with the little details. The effects around the ghosts, or a glimmer of a stone. Each episode has their own little Velma title card, and that's just something that most shows wouldn't even bother with. But this one did. Yeah, the writing is cringe and hollow, but really, what isn't these days? If you don't ever watch this series, or never consider it canon to the greater Scooby franchise, I don't blame you. Personally, I'm not sure where I land on how canon this is or is not. This could be your favorite in the franchise, which I would love to hear an argument for, like genuinely. And that's fine too. Not every piece of media is catered towards everyone. All I know is I had a way better time with this than I thought I ever would have. I've gotten what I need out of it, and I think that's more than I can say for a lot of media these days. Thank you very much for watching up until this point. I know it was a lot to deal with. As always, a huge shout out to all of my members on Patreon and here on YouTube. If you have the means to and want to help support me, head on over there with the link in the description or in the card above. And as of now, this is the last Scooby series. But Go-Go Mystery Machine seems to be promising so far. Will it get cancelled and written off for tax purposes? Yeah, probably. But I do know that there's at least a couple of Scooby-Doo direct-to-video films that I'm really excited to check out. Until then though, bye!